first of all, your level of experience. You've lived the game your whole life as a player and as a coach. So it would be fun to kind of start from the beginning. And then also sort of the broader theme that I'm interested in, and I've been thinking about it more and more as I get older, is the connection between what you learn playing sports and how you can apply that to the rest of your life, and how it transcends whatever the game is. The game part almost doesn't even matter.
Right.
But it's what it calls from you if you're taking it seriously. And if you have coaches that are taking it seriously, even at an early level.
Right.
And how that goes beyond the game and what it teaches you about community and responsibility and commitment and all those great things. Today's guest is Tony Messina. 36 years as coach Tony Messina of the high school boys hockey team in Hingham, Massachusetts. 12 as head coach, 24 under the tutelage of Coach Garrett Regan, the late, great Garrett Regan. Hingham, Mass. is the town Tony lives in and grew up in, the town in which he learned to play the game of hockey after his mother taught him how to skate on the pond. He played under great coaches himself, coaches who always pushed him to play above his skill level, challenge himself, take the quest seriously, and the town where he eventually began coaching the high school team, a team I played for, luckily, under Tony and Garrett for 4 years, along with my own brother and some of my closest friends in the world. We spent a lot of time playing at Pilgrim Arena in Hingham together, learning from Tony all the while. He was always a role model during my time there and remains one through his dedication to community, to education of young people through sports, through the example he sets by how he carries himself and his actions. 36 years and counting, no signs of slowing down. Tony says he'll coach until it's not fun anymore, which just might be a long, long time. Tony, as I mentioned, grew up in the town, played through the youth program and at the high school, then off to the Division I program at the University of Vermont, where he played as a catamount, and after graduating, came back to his hometown and settled in to the next phase. Here we go, Tony Messina.
Back to Hingham, got a job, full-time job, which I thought would be my calling, and went to the rink one day. My brother was a varsity player, but he was 6 years younger than me. So when I came back to town, he was a junior on the high school team, came to watch one of his scrimmages, and the then coach, Garrett Regan, skated over and said, "Hey, would you like to help us out? I know you played some hockey. We need help coaching." I said, he wasn't my coach, so I didn't know him that well. I said, "You know what, I just started a new job." And he said, "Well, just come when you think you can make it." So here I am 36 years later, still doing the same thing, just trying to balance the coaching, the work life, family life, etc. So it's been a great experience, nothing I planned to do as I started out, but it's really, the coaching has helped in family life and business, and they're all kind of intermingled. So it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that, because before the conversation I was thinking about it, and what's neat about what you're doing is you, as you mentioned, full-time dad, full-time businessman, full-time coach, 3 different jobs, and I'm always interested when there are people who are excelling on multiple fields. When you're focused and successful in different realms, and how those things feed each other rather than pull from each other.
Right.
So backing up a little bit.
Yep.
And for listeners, Garrett Regan was a coach at Hingham High School, Hingham, Massachusetts, for how long?
Garrett started in 1982 and went to 2008.
Okay. Yeah. So 26 years.
Yep.
And high school hockey coach, legendary persona, played at Boston College, and was a fully committed coach because he was retired from his work.
Not for the whole time. So he was a business professor at Emmanuel College, and I think he was head of the business department in the latter years.
Yeah.
Was a stockbroker at times as well. I think he went maybe the last 10 years, 15 years of his coaching, he was not working anymore.
Right.
But he had an MBA from Wharton, which is amazing in itself.
Yeah.
And he, as you say, he was a real character, a guy that was committed beyond what you would think that any high school coach could be. Love the game, love the kids. Although sometimes you wouldn't know it, the kids would, I think they come to respect that after the fact, after they're out. But had everyone's best interest in mind. Very organized, very smart, and a very successful coach. Created a great culture at Hingham High that I've kind of carried on as I've gotten into coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had that magic of being able somehow, and I guess it's through experience and through his own visible commitment to the program, but the ability to say very little vocally, but command a room, command an entire community around that particular sport. But for me, having played for him in retrospect, or even during, but what I thought was fascinating, or what I still think is fascinating, is his value system was so clear. What was rewarded versus what was not rewarded said kind of everything. You could be the best player in the world, but if you were selfish or showboaty or finger pointing, you just wouldn't play, and you would get called out for it, and you wouldn't play. On the other side, if it's work ethic, selflessness, commitment,
correct,
over time, that's all it was asked for. And it was public high school hockey. It wasn't the Bruins, but it was treated as if it were. And I think that message trickled down to the rest of us who were
right. Yeah, I totally agree. He and I was his assistant coach for 24 years, so I lived it. I get to see behind the curtain as well, and we had a lot of discussions about different things, and just an amazing guy, very accomplished. He, like you said, he would say something. He could summarize something in one sentence,
right,
and you would get the total gist of everything that was required. It was just amazing, like you said. I mean, I don't know how he did it. We would play a game, just even down to this, we would play a game, and if it didn't go well on the bus, 5 minutes in, he'd turn around with a little notepad, and he had written down, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do in practice tomorrow. This is what we're going to attack. And, I was always amazed at his intelligence. A lot of people didn't realize how smart he was.
Right.
And like you said, he didn't say much, so I think people took him for maybe, being kind of a grump.
Yeah.
Like that type of, message was being sent just by his stoic personality, but all the time, he had stuff running through his head, and he knew what was going on.
Yeah.
He was a conductor of the band, and he knew exactly what was going to happen. And you mentioned, kids who, may not have the most talent, but if you're a good teammate, and you do what's expected, then you're going to get rewarded. You're going to get some playing time. You're going to be part of the team. And you mentioned to the contrary, and I've kept that alive in my 12 years as the head coach. I think that's, as long as a player is close to playing at the varsity level in terms of ability, if he's good teammates, put a lot of time in, is committed to the program, like to give him an opportunity.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to play to the level. You can't have kids on the varsity team that are not as good as kids on the JV team.
Right, of course. Because
they're younger type thing. So every year is a different set of variables. This year's team, we call it T85. It's the 85th Hingham High team.
Oh, wow.
So we talk about that a little bit, saying the tradition of the hockey team, and, there's 85 teams that have come before you that have worn these shirts before. We have a tradition to uphold, a way to act. And Garrett and I kind of built that over time, and Garrett was the orchestrator for sure, but I was part of it for the 24 years and lived and breathed how that worked, and I've just tried to carry that on because it's been such a governing ideal, to govern the team by, and it's the same thing today. It's a lot of the things that we were successful at when Garrett was coaching, I've tried to carry on and, expanded those somewhat. But it's the same thing. If you're a good teammate, we ask everyone to be good teammates, and that means, there's no class rankings. I mean, you remember Garrett was all about, whether you're a freshman or a senior, you're treated the same. No hazing, none of that type of stuff is tolerated.
Right.
And it's the same thing today. I like to think that, seniors are giving rides to freshmen to practice. It's just one big happy team, and that's the way it should be to be successful. So try to keep that going as long as we can.
Yeah, amen. You mentioned you giving people the opportunity, and one of the things that I benefited from, and that we both have experienced a pretty rare thing, at least in my travels, haven't really met that many other people who had the experience of being in a smallish town with a public sports program that the town supported, that people took seriously, that has this storied history, 85 years today. But being around that as a little guy, going to the games just because my dad knew about it, and then having older brother play while I was still young. So I was aware of it as a thing that I had the opportunity potentially to be a part of.
Right.
So by the time I was in it, and during the whole time I was in it, I felt the weight, or not the weight, I felt the force of what was behind me. The tradition that was behind me that now I got to be a part of and contribute to somehow. So it was like this magic kind of power that you felt like, wow, I'm really part of something that has meaning, that people care about, that I care about. And it's so easy as you say it to think, oh my gosh, you're just kind of like obsessed with your high school experience.
Right.
But it wasn't about anything other than feeling that energy, and then realizing how rare that is.
Yeah, it's hard to describe, right?
Right.
It's hard to tell other people, what that means. I can remember as a kid, many years ago, going to the Boston Garden, watching the high school team play.
Yeah.
I was in middle school at the time, and when it was my turn to play high school hockey, it was the same thing. I remembered those days. I remembered how much fun, and I wanted to be part of that. And everyone wants to be part of something great, and so we try to keep that team thing going today. Try to have some of the former players come in and talk to the team. We have a lot of former players that come to practice during the holidays. They're back from school, or they recently graduated, come back and practice with the team. I think we had nine kids the other day.
Wow.
And it's important for the players to see that. You can go on and play other places. These kids have all, the younger kids know who these kids are. They know their names, being successful players. And it's good to have that. We try to make that connection all the time, because it's very important. We don't want to lose the history of the program, and like you said, I don't know if it's magic, but it's something that helps.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we have one of the toughest schedules in the state for a public school, and we've been one of the top public schools probably in the last 10 to 15 years every year, and we're very fortunate that we have great players, but it's trying to foster that connection to the past and trying to have kids realize that they can be some part of something special.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone experiences it differently, but I remember it being very visceral for me. And with the coaching staff, with you and Ricky Schurk, I remember freshman year and throughout, but the first time I had heard it from Ricky specifically was, I think, before a Super 8 game. And he, pregame speech.
I know what you're going to
say. And this is, for listeners, Ricky had played professional. He had been a Hingham High All-Star, Northeastern, kind of a local name. And now he was coaching our team, so that alone is incredible. But then he gives a speech sort of where hockey had taken him, which we were all aware of, but to hear it from his mouth, and then he said, none of that matters. what you have right now was the best it ever was, and the best it ever will be for you playing the game. And then it was chills, and it was coming from him who had success, who was at a level, had been at a level of the game that most of us in the room would never get to. To hear that from him, it was like, oh wow, it's not he could have told a different story, but that it was real for him.
Yeah, I think that's that's part of it, right? You're playing with kids you grew up with, families you've known.
Yeah,
I mean it's a cool experience, and so we use that today as when I started to say we have one of the toughest schedules. We have, I think, 14 Catholic school teams on our schedule, which, back in Garrett's day, he didn't like playing the Catholics because they tend to recruit, and they can, be a good team every year without, filling spots that they're short in, what have you. But on our end, you have to live in the town of Hingham to play for Hingham High Hockey, so it's a little bit different. He always thought that was unfair, and one summer he called me and said, do you think we should start to play the Catholics? And I said, if we want to take this thing where we want to take it, we've got to start playing them. If we're going to play them in the tournament, we've got to play them during the regular season. So we made that decision. But it's one of those things that we always say to the players, it's the only thing that we have over the Catholic school teams, and that's the fact that you guys grew up together. You know each other. You've been playing together forever. And you know each other's families and parents and brothers and sisters, and it's kind of cool. Whereas you have the Catholic teams who may be an all-star team. Some of those teams don't even take a bus to the games. They take individual cars, and they show up, and there might be a kid from this town and two from that town and one from an hour away that lives in New Hampshire. What kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, they don't even know each other. We grew up, we learned how to skate together.
Right. And whether you like them or not, you know each other. And so we always say that's our one advantage over the Catholic teams. And if we're not using it, we're stupid. So we play on that a lot. And we try to rally around that, and it works.
No, it's fascinating because that's a story. It's a story you're telling yourself that translates into energy that then becomes a superpower while you're playing the game.
Right.
I went to prep school after Hingham and played with some of the guys from the Catholic schools while I was at prep school, and it was interesting hearing it from their perspective because they said we used to hate coming to play you guys at Pilgrim because we didn't know we couldn't relate to the energy of a packed hometown crowd screaming at us, and we didn't have that power that you had, and so like a home game at Pilgrim with however many hundreds of people in the stands.
That's right.
And them being kind of envious of the camaraderie they could feel and the community support they could feel because they didn't have that.
It's true. I mean, we just had a Hingham-Weymouth game, and Weymouth is the bordering town, as you know, that across the tracks, and it's the two teams that kind of go at it. And it was on Christmas Eve, and the crowd that shows up, they have to close the rink because there's too many people, and it's just the energy and the vibrancy of the game is just unbelievable. And it's one of those games where it doesn't matter what the records are; it's the emotion of the teams, and who ends up winning, who knows. But we've been fortunate to be on the winning end a number of times, but it's all about the environment, and that's the key thing, as you mentioned. It's just an extra power that you get.
At the very beginning, and in your earlier memories, what got you into the game? Who are some of the heroes at that point for you?
No, that's an interesting question. I started late. I didn't start skating till I was maybe 8 years old. I mean, some people listening might think, 8 years old. But we have kids that are skating at 2 years old.
Yeah.
In our area here. 8 years old, my mother taught me to skate. She somehow was had some figure skating experience, and so we went to the Cranberry Pond, a small pond here in town, and there was a huge hockey game going on out there, and so I was kind of watching them, and I remember she took me to like a little brook off the side of the pond, to learn to skate, and that's kind of where I got my start. So I'd say, there's been a couple of coaches that have helped me out through the years. I can remember a man by the name of Jack Invernizzi, who his son Barry played in town with us. He was a year older than me. He was kind of an influential coach for me. He, when I was in Squirts, he had a peewee team, which is a year older, and they went on some travel teams. And he would bring me up to go play with those guys, and he would push me ahead all the time and give me a lot of support and confidence and things. And then later on in life, at the high school level, I had a coach named Steve Daly, who was another former Hingham player that had come back to coach and played at Merrimack College, and really took the game seriously.
And what did you notice about Coach Daly in particular? Gave you the opportunity to be successful, but how did that look?
Well, I think Coach Daly was also like, he was a town local hero.
Yep.
I read articles about him back in, I think it might be 1969. Sorry if I dated you wrong there, but I think, just the success of, him and his teammates back then, it's before my time, but just lends a little bit of credibility. And then to be looking up to him, and our assistant coach was Kevin Duggan, who was he was a goalie during that time as well. Just looking at those two and the organization and the seriousness that they took with the program kind of, invigorated me to be involved and to become the best player I could. And, I got a ton of ice time and, took advantage of it. And was able to earn the scholarship to the University of Vermont as a result. But just very happy that I had those guys, at the time.
Yeah. Speaking of taking advantage of the ice time, I had Eddie Connors on the show, and he was telling me a story about when he was in college, and he was working a day job. He loved hockey, grew up playing. And there was you could try out for the Olympics back then. It was like kind of like an open thing. And so, and he was like, "Oh, it's free ice time. We could try out. No reason not to." And didn't make the team, but the BU coach was at the thing, and he said, "Do you want to play for us?" And that was how he got on the BU team.
Isn't that amazing?
And he was so nonchalant about it. But I was like, "Wait a second, let's pause there. That's everything. You pursued an opportunity for one thing." Yeah. Something else pops up, but you had to show up. But a different time, obviously, but I just love that story.
And contrast that to today where, BU might have a 13-year-old kid committed to play for them when he graduates from high school, or when he turns maybe 21 years old.
Right.
8 years ahead of time, they're scouting their players.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Okay, so you learned to skate in Hingham. You're aware of the tradition, good coaching along the way. Which was same for me. I mean, because my dad played, so it was kind of set up for us to at least be aware of it. And for him, it was like, Bobby. He grew up in the area. Bobby Orr, he said, comes to town now, and all of a sudden every kid wants to play hockey.
Yep.
And then for us, and he, like I said, he started late, so he played in high school, but he didn't have enough time to develop, I don't think. But so we were aware of it early, and then me especially, before I even knew which way was left or right. I was just around it, and the little TV and the 13-inch TV in the living room, in the cabinet we would open up to play the Bruins games. Nesson, Fred Cusick, commentator, Neely,
Derek
Bork,
Sanderson,
Adam Oates, Andy Moog, those guys. So it was such a part of my entire existence that it was. I don't know, just kind of
it's almost ingrained.
Rode that wave. Yeah, you sort of, and unless you really don't like it for some reason, it's sort of in front of you as a portal to the rest of your youth at least. But it's pretty cool. And so, okay, so you had a career at Hingham, then you got recruited to UVM. And then did anything happen? Did you hang them up right after you graduated? Was there any?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. At the time, Americans weren't, there weren't very many Americans in the NHL.
Yeah.
It was just starting to change. The name Bobby Carpenter, he was a year behind me. He was one of the first real Americans to make it in the NHL, and then started the landslide there. And, I wasn't at that level anyway, but I had a great career. I was ready to move on and, get a job and start my life. And I actually got married a year later. I got married early and ended up started coaching at the same time, by happenstance. And here I am 36 years later.
So you said that's a good segue. So you're simultaneously starting a career as a professional, not hockey related, as you're also starting your coaching career. And I imagine starting to think about eventually building a family with your new wife. How has it, and if it has, how your sporting career, your athletic career, carried over into your professional experience?
Yeah, I think it's gone both ways actually. It's tough to juggle.
Yeah.
Family life, business life, and coaching. I've been able to do it very successfully. Been in a sales career for a long time, management for the last 25 years, and I find it very similar to managing a team, a hockey team. There's some differences for sure, but for instance, my sales team is remote. We're all over the eastern, the Northeast, so it's not like a hockey team where you have a locker room and an environment where your culture can be like in front of you every day.
Right.
And so it's a little bit different from that, but there's motivation. There's similarities with different roles on the team. I have a sales team where there's different positions on the team, and each is required to do their job in order to be successful as a group. And same thing with a hockey team. We have guys that score goals. We have guys that kill penalties. We have guys that, create energy on the ice. We have guys that, just play a tough defensive game that, aren't required to score goals. And so it's very similar that way. So that has all been part of my life back and forth between the two. And then, juggling a family as well has been tough. I've been married for 35 years.
Nice.
Don't hold me to that one. I think 85. Yeah, so almost 35 years. And so have two daughters that played hockey and just coaching their teams through the years and going to their games. My oldest daughter just graduated from Holy Cross, played hockey there, and traveling around to see her games and trying to go to the high school games and coach the team, and then traveling for work. It's just a lot to coordinate. But it makes the days go by quickly, and you have to be super organized. And that's one of the things that's come out for me in terms of I'm very organized with the hockey part of things, very organized at work. You couldn't do it without it. My wife would say I'm not very organized at home, but she is, so that's very helpful.
Yeah. I got you. So the and then how about from a coaching perspective? You mentioned every year's different, teams' dynamics are different, personalities are different. What are you kind of observing? How do you approach that when you have, say, a team of, like this year sounds like younger guys versus a team of seniors, with all-stars, and what are you looking for at the beginning of the year? What are you trying to create?
Yeah, good question. I think, the thing that stays the same, which is key, is the culture around the team. And that's something that Garrett established and that I've been able to keep going. And it's really that, you're expected to work hard. You're expected to commit to the program. We're not saying you can't play other sports. In the high school program, the winter season is 3.5 months long. That's it. So we can't even have contact as far as hockey-related activities for the other 8.5 months.
Right.
So it's a real small window of time. And, we encourage playing other sports, but at the same time, don't give up your commitment to hockey. Always find a way to make yourself a better player. And the way that we've been able to sustain that culture is, and as a young player, you come onto the team as a freshman and your brother's a senior, and you see the way he acts, the way he treats younger players, the way he treats his teammates. You're likely to do that when you get older, right? And that's how we sustain the culture. And nothing else is acceptable. Occasionally you get a guy that tries to change some things, and it's not acceptable. So it's going to be this way, my way, or the highway, and that's the Garrett Regan method.
Yeah.
And kind of you have to put your foot down and say, this is the way we do things here. And so this year we have a very young team. I say young, not young in terms of age, young in experience. We have, I think, 13 seniors on the team, 5 of which have not played varsity hockey yet. So they were JV players and, made their way onto the varsity this year. Some are in a real contribution role. Others, is trying to work their way in right now. But we have, out of the 30 players on the roster, we have 18 that are new to the varsity.
Yeah.
So they've got to learn their way. And as you might expect, we've had some good success early and some down times where you would expect the effort and the young team trying to learn the pace and what's expected of them has been up and down a little bit. So we require the guys that have been around for a long time, captains, some of the seniors who have played in a lot of games, to really help those kids out. And in addition to the coaches, they're part of that too. And that takes a while. So last year we had 14 seniors graduate. All had been around for a long time and had contributed greatly to the program. And they leave. We also lost 2 players that went to prep school, decided to go off to prep school. So we had a lot of spots open, and like I said, we have 18 players that are new to the program. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. And so not only do you have to teach them about the culture of the team and what the expectations are and how you have to act and what kind of sportsmanship you need, and there's a million different things. Right. We also have to win hockey games. Yeah. And so it creates a tough situation, and it's like I said, we've only been 3 weeks into the season, 3.5 weeks into the season, so there's a lot to go over. It's 6 days a week. It's there's a lot to get instilled in the players, and you need the help of the experienced guys to help you out.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure it's case by case, but in general, if you notice that there isn't the messaging from the top has been missed, or someone's trying to change things up. Can you talk a little bit more about how that's handled, or kind of what you're looking for that is, let's say, a red flag, and then how you would approach it to make sure that the communication is more clear of what's expected?
I think we rely on the captains heavily. The captains are voted by their teammates from the previous season, and the team usually does a great job in selecting their captains. They know who is a leader and who's going to be the best for the team coming up. So we rely on them a lot. So there's a lot of communication between the coaches and the captains, constantly trying to find out, is everything going well? Are there any issues? I think communication there is key to try to determine whether you have any red flags or not. And generally the captains are our biggest advocates. We ask them to be kind of like the coaches to the players.
Yep.
And we also ask them, to tell us what the players are thinking.
Sure.
So it's kind of goes both ways for the captains. And if you have good captains, which we usually do, and we have guys doing a good job this year, it's really comes down to them. Mm-hmm. We put a lot of onus on them, and then the seniors that have been around for a while, we put the same kind of responsibility on them. And so if there are things going wrong, we expect them to come to us and let us know. Generally, we do not have any issues with the culture type of thing. Occasionally, like I mentioned, once in a while, somebody would try to do something different. But most of the time, players fall in line, which is great. And, it's how we have the success year after year is that kids they understand what's expected, and they do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you lead by example from the top, and then you trust that they care enough to stay at it. And I know we've chatted a little bit about it, but you mentioned my way or the highway. If you were to summarize what that culture is, what you expect of players in the program, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say my way or the highway comes from Garrett.
Yeah.
He was like a no-nonsense disciplinarian type coach, as you know.
Yeah, old school.
Yeah, old school. Yeah, and so I try, I think I am too, but once in a while the assistant coach would say, "Geez, you sound just like Garrett Regan," which I don't see that, but maybe just after so much time and to do things the right way, there's a lot of common things that you need to do, but it's a tough one. My way, the highway is really there's a defined set of expectations. And we talked about them a little bit before. It's, we expect you to be a committed hockey player. Whether you're the best player on the team or a guy fighting to earn a spot on the roster, we expect that you're going to work your butt off.
Yeah.
And the way that we kind of, even when we graduate a lot of kids and everyone says, oh, Hingham's going to be rebuilding next year, I call it reloading, not rebuilding. Mm-hmm. And reloading means like, even our best players, if they work their butt off in the off season, they're going to go from 80 to 90% or 80 to 100%. Yeah. We need everyone on the roster to work hard. Right. And so that's the expectation. And so if you get that and your best players are your hardest workers, you're going to have a great environment. And
absolutely.
We have that. I run, one of the things I can be involved in the off season is the workouts at the track during the summer. You know those well. Garrett used to do that, and he had a lot of different nuances that he would use with exercises and different things. And we upgraded that to kind of a more fast feet type workout. But I mention it because this summer, in anticipation of the season, we averaged over 55 players coming to the track on Monday and Thursday nights from 6 to 7:30 or whatever time we do it. And we always say it's great to come and work out with the guys, and but we have 34 freshmen this year. I would say on average 25 of them were freshmen would come, and so that's kind of like buying into the program, being committed. Coaches get a chance to know the kids, right? Who these kids are, what makes them tick, what kind of athletes they are. And I always say the workouts are one thing. We keep kids honest and make sure that they're going through the motions and they're working out. And we can see kids' bodies change during the summer just by what they're doing. But the biggest thing that comes to that is the camaraderie. Yeah. And to be a freshman working out in the summer and know on September 1st you're going to high school for the first time. Yeah. And to be able to walk down the hall and say hi to a senior. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, not too bad.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the way we look at it. The camaraderie of it is probably the biggest thing you get out of it, not just the workout. So that's the way that we run the program. The camaraderie should be there from top to bottom. If it isn't, we step in and get involved. But our older kids buy into that because that's the way they were treated when they were younger. Right. So it's a self-fulfilling situation.
No, definitely, and that's should have a spotlight shined on it for I think any group that's trying to accomplish anything meaningful. Is that you need the buy-in, as you said, commitment. You need to make it fun. You need it have a bigger purpose than just being great at hockey. It's about something much bigger than that, and it's about friendship and community and camaraderie and selflessness and consideration for the group. Right. It's not just about you. It's about this much bigger thing, and you have this chance to contribute if you're willing to.
Right, and that's why we say be a good teammate. One of the biggest thing is team. We make sure that the seniors are taking care of the younger kids, giving them rides or whatever it takes. Are you a teammate? Last couple games haven't been that great for us. We've got had a couple of tough losses, but at the games, I have 7 or 8 players that aren't suited up for the game because you can only dress 22. So we have, 30 on the roster. So there's 8 kids who are disappointed they're not dressed for the game every game. Yet, I have them keep stats. I have them, they're part of the team, and they do so very willingly. You could have a kid who say, I'm not keeping stats. Keep your own stats.
Right.
It's not going to go well for him, but I never get that reaction. It's all, what can I do? How can I help? And that's all part of it. I think it's also because I'm the coach, and if they say I'm not going to help, it probably won't play too much soon, but
no, that does.
It's all part of it. It's, how can I help? How can I be part of this? We have players on the team who are, they're seniors on the team for the first time. It remains to be seen how much they get, playing time they get. They're working hard. They're happy to be part of the program. They've made it to the varsity, and it's, that's the cool thing about it. They have a chance to experience something. No matter how much they play, they're part of something that's, kind of special.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that says it all. How can I help? I mean, I think that could apply to apply to anything that's worthwhile when you're with a group of people. If you can instill that perspective of team first, how can I help? How can I contribute in ways small and large?
Right. And I mentioned, my work with a sales team. I have 8 people on a sales team throughout northeastern U.S., and we all have different roles. I manage the team, but we have veterans, we have rookies, and it's the same type of thing. Are the rookies getting all the training they can? Are they learning the product lines? Are they getting up to speed? The veterans helping them out, and we get a lot of that. A lot of help. It takes, to be a successful team, you need all types, and you need everyone contributing. It's the same type of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And a shared vision and good energy, attitude, effort. Those things have to be there for it to be
those are almost non-negotiable, right? Effort and commitment. You've got to have it to be successful in a consistent period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it probably goes without saying, but the fact that we're even doing this, I think, is an indication of how much of an impact you've had on me, and how much my experience playing for you and alongside my friends who I'm still close as can be with. It's been a very meaningful part of my life. So thank you for your contribution to that, and for setting such a great example, just by how you are and your commitment to the whole thing.
Thank you very much. And for the listeners, Ty was a very hard worker. He, from day one, hard worker, good leader, always had a positive attitude. So I can see that that's still part of your life, which is great.
Well, thank you for saying that. And is there anything else you want to say? Anything at all?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. It's a unique thing. Like you said, it's not just about us talking about our high school experiences.
Right.
It is a unique thing that that Garrett and even Ed Connors and Steve Daly and all the coaches before him have started, and each and every one of us has kind of pushed the program on further. I always say the coaches are the caretakers of the program, because there'll be somebody after me.
Yeah.
And who knows how soon, but somebody will come in after me and move this thing along, and it's important to keep the history and the tradition, the legacy alive.
Right, absolutely. And standing on the shoulders of giants. And even for the rest of us, whether a small percentage of those who've played at Hingham are going to come help you out coaching, and then but the rest of us, whether we're in the area or not, are going to carry this with us, apply it to our own lives. What we've been talking about this morning is going to be funneled into that, and I think that's for the better of whatever community, whatever little pocket of space that happens in is a good thing.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, cheers. Thanks for being on. Best of luck. I hope I can get to a few games next time I'm home.
Yeah, and I'd like to have you come in and talk to the team, just to tell them a little bit about your story.
Yeah, sign me up. I would love to do that.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. That's it for this episode. Thank you to Aaron for the sound design, Elon Watkins for the artwork. Also, thank you to Super Yamba Band for letting us use the music on this episode. Thanks again for everyone tuning in. Feel free to give us a rating, commentary if you feel so inclined on iTunes. We'll connect again with you soon on the Jalapeno Podcast. Take care. On we go.
And good luck in the playoffs, boys.
Woo!